Welcome back to another episode of Motogp Mac, and today we're going to talk about the Indonesian Grand Prix that just happened at the Mandalika circuit. But before we get into it, here is how they finished. Pecco Bagnaia won it from Maverick Vinales, Fabio Quartararo, Fabio Di Giannantonio, Marco Bezzecchi, Brad Binder, Jack Miller, Enea Bastianini, Alex Marquez, Aleix Espargaro, Taka Nakagami, Miguel Oliveira, Raul Fernandez, and Franco Morbidelli was the last rider to cross the line. Johan Zarco, Jorge Martin, Joan Mir, Augusto Fernandez, Marc Marquez, Luca Marini, and Pol Espargaro all crashed. Now, to say it was the perfect race from Pecco would be a little bit of an understatement. He was running the hard tyre, very aggressive off the line. Remember, he did start in 13th place, and by the end of lap 2, he was up into 4th place. Then, he worked his way into 3rd place, and everything became alive in the race when Martin did crash. Now, Martin lost the front. I hope he is okay, because he did hold on to the bike for a little bit too long, especially as the bike flipped over. So hope there is no injuries there. But again, it gave Pecco the opportunity to retake the lead and also to win the race and inflict the maximum amount of damage to Martin's championship lead. So Pecco now has retaken the lead from Jorge Martin, but this championship is far from over. Really good race from Maverick Vinales today. He led after Martin crashed, but Pecco soon came past him. I thought he had used his tyres, but he was able to defend from Fabio Quartararo at the end, who was much, much faster. But again, unfortunately for Fabio, you could see the weak points of the Yamaha. He can run the pace, but he just doesn't have the power, or the bike won't give him the opportunity to pass people as easily as it would on a Ducati or an Aprilia, for example. Super ride from Fabio Di Giannantonio, up into 4th place. I know this was a crash fest of a race and there was a lot of people that didn't finish, but again, points equal prizes, and he is a contender for the HRC seat. So this weekend hasn't been a bad weekend for him in total. A really good ride again from Marco Bezzecchi. Not in full fitness at all, and you could see it at the end of the Grand Prix. He was in a lot of pain, but amazing ride from him, keeping his championship that little bit alive. Brad Binder, let's just say he had an eventful race with 2 long lap penalties for irresponsible riding. And yeah, look, he did bash people out of the way, and yeah, look, he did deserve them. A lot of people asking why didn't Aleix get a long lap penalty for hitting into Brad yesterday, and my understanding is that Aleix's bike had already crashed when it hit Brad, so therefore he was just collateral damage. Not sure I agree with it, but that's what the ruling is saying. Jack Miller had a good enough race, I must say, definitely helped by the crash fest. Enea Bastianini, he did start at times during the race to look like his old self. He's definitely on the pace, one of the fastest laps of the race, I believe. So hopefully, he can start finding himself again for the 2024 season and stay injury free for the rest of the 2023 season. Alex Rins in 9th, really, really, really good ride from him. He was in a lot of pain after the sprint yesterday, but, he stayed on the bike this weekend, and really, really good race from him. Aleix Espargaro, poor enough race, if I'm very honest. Wrong tyre choice, and he just sank like a stone. He did finish in the top 10, but still, with Maverick finishing 2nd, it's kind of the benchmark of where you'd expect him to be. Taka Nakagami, really good race from him as well. Keeping people honest and not too far away from Alex Rins. Miguel Oliveira down in 12th place, doesn't really tell his whole story. He was doing pretty well. Binder did touch him through the gravel, so he did lose an awful lot of time there. But it's he's just a target for contact, if I'm very, very honest. Raul Fernandez, good enough race as well. He stayed on, which is the main thing. But again, he was a long way back from Vinales. But again, look, he's finished the race. Franco Morbidelli, again, in 14th place. He was a number of laps behind. He did actually pull in, and he actually came back out again. I think when he realised that anyone that finished would get a point. Zarco crashed in the same corner as Martin a couple of laps after Martin. Lost the front. Again, it's just the nature of the circuit. Jorge Martin, I believe he was on the soft front tyre, so I'm not sure did that play into it. But look at this. At that point, he should have been cruising, and it's just another twist in the title run. Johan Mir, he was battling, I think for 10th place with Nakagami at the time, and he had another fall. Augusto Fernandez as well. Not a good race weekend for Repsol Honda or Gas with no finish in this race. Marc Marquez lost the front. 23rd crash of the season so far for Marc, which is a staggering amount if you consider how many races that he has missed, but he looked pretty dejected after it. Luca Marini was taken out by Binder, to be honest. Was the last thing that he needed, another bang on that left shoulder, but hopefully we'll see him again next week. And Polo Espargaro crashed out on lap 1. Just kind of a dreadful race for race weekend for Polo Espargaro, if I'm very honest. All in all, I thought the Mandalika circuit is, as I said, is one of those places you don't really want to crash. Very dirty offline. And I still go back to what Crayfair said at the start of the weekend. You can't really trust the front, and you could see an awful lot of the crashes were front end crashes. But championship now is a game on again. For Joe, the pendulum is going to swing either way. I did mention it. There's a twist, and we have to remember with the likes of Pecco and Martin, people are saying, "Oh, who's going to choke first?" and this, that, and the other. These guys are battling at the front of the World Championship in really weird circumstances and tracks and stuff like that. It's not going to be who's going to choke. It's who's going to be making the most mistakes. And there's not one motorbike rider or fan out there that have not made a mistake on a motorbike. And, when you're pushing to that limit that they do, it's knife edge stuff of what they do. I think what we all are, and I think most people would agree with me, we're all very lucky to watch the run-in of this championship. Again, it's going to go down, in my view, to the last couple of race weekends, just like it did last year. And, it will definitely be super interesting to see what happens. But for me, rider of the day has to be Pecco Bagnaia, closely followed by Maverick Vinales and Quartararo, if I'm honest. But definitely love to know your thoughts. What did you think of the Indonesian Grand Prix, and who was your rider of the day? Definitely leave your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another video.